If everybody could please silence their phones. Thank you. Including myself.
Are you ready? All right, Mexico is Governor Sheldon Montrician, and I'm at the New Mexico Military Institute, which is one of the shelter locations in Roswell. We continue to get incredible reports about the service and support by so many Mexicans who are volunteering their time and goods and services, and other folks from the community who were joining in to both lift up in spirit so many Mexicans who have been negatively impacted and evacuated by this fire, but also to make sure they have everything they need during this evacuation. I'm joined by Congresswoman Melanie Sainsbury, who represents many people in this area. Earlier we had Congressman Dave Vasquez, who also represents people in this area. The Congressman and I share this from our perspectives, largely because we share constituents. So we want to be organized and supportive. While we don't want there to be a wrong order, we don't want people to have to chase us for information. So we're working really hard to minimize that. General Aguilar, of course, leads the Mexico National Guard, but he's also the lead for our Homeland Security departments. He's got 2 full-time jobs, and he's been on the ground here with many men and women. And as you might imagine, from the Guard, they are responsible for everything, including sometimes firefighting, if there's many firefighters that have been called to that task. Otherwise, the hotshot crews, our job is to let them do what they are trained to do. They are trained to fight fires. They are trained to win that fight against fires. And that's why Tim Jennings out of Roswell to join us. He's, as we know, very visible to make sure that there's nothing is left unattended in terms of the resources and support that Roswell can provide to the victims of the fire and just to the community and there. I appreciate your effort so much. So here's some basic updates. One, we were here to have a meeting with the incident command team. The purpose of that is the teams come in and clarify management. And that may seem like they should have done that to begin with. No, they send resources into the fire. That's the first thing that we have to do. We identify who's at risk. We either determine if we need evacuation or not. We saw that play out in the first 24 hours. In the second 24 hours or so, we're going to make sure that the communications and the management efforts are underway and stabilized. Clarity here about the risks to people in high living areas, concentrations like Ruidoso is sufficient to make sure we've got the right firefighting personnel. We did have satellite imagery from yesterday that basically confirms cloud cover prevented. What we also believe to be the case, it's not confirmed, that about 500 homes are in that mix, again making this one of the most devastating fires in New Mexico's history. Now I know many of you are getting images and information from people who are working the fire, may not have evacuated, and they might have information that we don't have. And so I don't want the Mexicans who are depressed to assume that we don't all have consistent facts, but just recognize that there's not a total control of information, other than there should be. But the negative of that is it doesn't always roll up to the way I'm sure the press and the Mexicans would like it to, so that it's consistent. Functions and issues, frankly, as the weather clears and we can get better imagery and more people start to do the ground work that's safe to really determine the devastation and impact of both salt and Southwood fire. The one thing I'd like the Congressman to talk about is the state finished its work and got our information over to FEMA, asking for the federal government or President Biden to declare a national emergency. And her job and the delegation's job is to make sure that we get the resources that we need.
Great. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Governor. I'm Melanie Stansbury, and I'm deeply proud and honored communities impacted by this fire. Congressman Vasquez also represents part of Escalona Apache, which is also, of course, the epicenter of the fire. Person in this state not all of the families out there who are displaced, who are worried, who don't know what is going to happen in the coming days. We are unified. We are here to stand with you, to help support you. And my office, along with the entire delegation, the governor's office, our state, local authorities are working hand in hand, and we will be there for you every single point along the way. Now, in terms of the federal response, as the governor said, today a federal incident command was stood up. This is what happens when there is a major fire involving federal lands. The fire started on Mescalero Apache lands. Very closely on all these issues. The incident command's job, as the governor said, is to keep a handle on what's happening and help guide the efforts for firefighting with the state and local and tribal authorities and to keep people safe. We were briefed earlier today. We do know that hopefully with the incoming of the moisture that we're seeing, the fire conditions will improve in the coming days, but we are not out of the woods yet. The fire will continue to burn over the coming days, and the incident command will be the lead in those efforts and in distributing information. We do want to say to any of you that have been given evacuation orders, please do not return until you are cleared to do so. It is unsafe to return. In addition to the fire risks, there are also flood warning risks because of the rain, so we need folks to stay away. Now, the governor has, as she just said, done her work. The state has launched an extraordinary effort across all of the different fire as well as emergency response teams. But we are not going to be able to do this without federal support. So the governor did ask for a federal disaster declaration today from President Biden. She submitted it this afternoon. The delegation, all 5 members, including our 2 senators and 3 congressional representatives, have echoed the governor's ask and sent a letter to President Biden. Both Senator Heinrich and Lujan were at the White House today, and it is my understanding that it will much the next 12 to 24 hours. So we will make sure that people know what as soon as that happens. Now, the importance of that disaster declaration is that it unlocks federal resources. And the governor's order asks for help across every FEMA area that can provide both assistance for housing, individual support, as well as community support as both the fire is being battled and in the aftermath. And so that is just very, very important. The final thing I will say before I turn it back to the governor is that we anticipate that the costs of this recovery will be very high, partly because of the structure fires. And so I have already personally spoken with the leadership in the House and put on the radar that we will likely be asking for emergency funding as part of the supplemental, as happened with the Maui fire last year. So with that, I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Congresswoman. A quick story, two more quick updates, and then I ask the mayor and we're ready for questions. At the Capitan shelter, I met a man who is moved here to New Mexico and is living in Alta. And as everyone has done so far in our visits, have extolled the incredible work and virtues for men and women in these shelters who are doing everything they need. A couple of folks here today told me that this gets 5 stars on any of the apps that would rate this as a place to stay or a hotel. It's incredible the way people are being treated. But he said that he'd been through a disaster in Louisiana, a couple, and that it takes weeks or months to get shelters and get people on the same page and start working through the federal issues. And was very impressed. And I want to echo that. This is not always that typical. It should. This should be the model all across the United States. It isn't that it's perfect, but this is a state that always comes to the aid of its people. And in the audience, so New Mexicans can't see that, there are several local elected officials who have been working night and day to make sure that their constituents are safe and they're getting the resources that they need and deserve. I do want to confirm, yesterday we confirmed one day still accounted for. We are working directly with shelters, and I'm reminding folks about our hotline number. We can help get that reunification operation together if we're all doing it together. We don't have constituents running in several different places, but the shelters really help us do that. Part of the problem is communications. So we have short-term cellular mobile cameras, and they're helping the firefighters. They create that short-term or short-range communication operations that we need for first responders. What we don't have in that operational are more long-distance cellular mobile operations. We will get that done. It's called cellular on wheels, so make sure that my cow acronym makes sense to people viewing. We're working on getting those. That would really ease this communication gap between families and individuals who can't see their texts and don't have cell service. Now, the shelters are connected people. No one would say no to a phone device that does have access to coverage, but we want to make sure we make that better and easier. And then the last thing before you get the number in here, the mayor. The Congresswoman, we are not out of the woods. While this weather is helpful to the fire, three emergency rescues that I'm aware of in this moment. I expect there will have been more by the time we finish this press update. Stay out of the evacuation areas. Heed the flash flood warnings. 6 inches of water can knock you down. A foot of water can take you across. through any flooding anywhere. Follow the directions from the national emergency, whether or not an evacuation area stay put. Or go to where we've got blockades and make sure the police are supporting you. Do not, I repeat again, do not try and cross any flooded areas on foot or otherwise. It's incredibly dangerous. I want to thank Eric Crawford for his incredible work. That's where he is right now. He's dealing with the flooding, and our Department of Transportation is helping with flood flows and debris mitigation and management. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Jennings, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you. Well, you know, just 2 weeks ago we were proud because we just got awarded the Reno Air Races, which will now be the Volvo Air Races. And you know what? I mean, it was amazing. We can't do that without our neighbors. It all had to be done by pooling everything together, just like getting our air flights to Volvo and to serve this area. So we were counting on thousands of beds in Ruidoso, and that's going to give us some problems. But worse than anything else, we have some friends that have problems. By the grace of God, it wasn't us, but it happened to them. And I have to tell you, I cannot thank this community and the surrounding communities, all from Ruidoso, RT, Carlebed, the cows. They've all been here sending cots, sending everything. Everything that could be water. I mean, we got a whole semi full at the Eastern University gym. We got all that the other night with all kinds of food. You know what? The thing you're going to learn about this, maybe our politicians are always fighting, but the people in our communities love each other. And I can't tell you enough how much that is. When I look at it, when you look at General Crystal, I mean, this is his second major disaster. The first one was the Bureau building in Oklahoma City, but he's here. His staff has been fantastic on what they've done. And I turn around and I look, because we're working with them. We've been working with the Institute, our university. We got our notice about all this stuff was happening on, Monday afternoon. Who was there? But Sean Powell and Easter. And yeah, they're out of school and everything else, but you know what? We'll get the cook ready. We'll get it there. And you know what? It's all been fantastic. Our city staff has been fantastic. Chad Cole and Mike Matthews, even our weather queen has been great. She finally got rain here, but she was just 3 days too late. But that wasn't her fault. I mean, it was lost in the clouds. But really, what you see when you go to church on the move, and you go in there and you see the love and the care that is there, that you have boxes of undergarments for adults, children, and everything else all set out. And everybody is there because, when you got, 14 or 1,600 structures gone, what does that mean? If those structures are home, that means Ruidoso has lost 3,000 people out of 7,500 who've lost their bed. It's big. But when you go to one of these facilities, go and look at the care and the love that is there. Our congressional people sometimes might fight, but the rest of us, the rest of the people love each other. And I can't tell you what a blessing it is to be in this community and see what happens. And it's not just here, it's southeastern New Mexico. We're all together, working together. And as I've been a volunteer farmer for more than 50 years, and I was chief of the Duncan fire department, I spent days and days and days on the fires, including the Sky Eagle fires and the fires in Ruidoso. I know what this is. Be a little longer. So please bear your patience. Please let's keep working together, because we have to show those people who lost everything they had, only have the clothes on their back. We have to show them for the next month. And really, if we lost 1,500 houses or whatever in Ruidoso doesn't have houses to put them in. We have got to find houses, apartments, and buildings to put them in so they can decide where they're going to end up. So our work's not over. We have to keep working and working, and we have to be cognizant of the fact when someone goes and sees their home gone and all they have is clothes on their back, they're going to come back here and maybe look for a place to stay, and they're going to need some help. No. You don't take something like this in stride. This is something that you can only survive if you have your friends and people who love you. So, it's not over yet, but you know what? Lightning has struck, and we can make the best of it, and we're going to do it, but we can only do it if we all do it together. That's how great work is together. And I thank God, our city, county, our county has been good, our city has been good, our school has been good, our public schools, the university, we're all together. Nobody thinks we should be together. So let's be sure we're all there for those people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'm just going to reiterate, I love this mayor. We know about 1,400 structures. We don't have any data about the number of total households affected and already. The incident command will start to do public briefings. One will occur sometime tomorrow afternoon. It will be available via Zoom. We'll provide the links and the details and get that out to shelters, communities, and the media. After that, they'll start to do in-person meetings in the communities most affected, and very specific questions by individuals who want to know about fire behavior and where they can give you a glimpse of what they're expecting day to day. So that will also start to occur. Michael, when we take some questions.
Danielle?
I had a question about because if you have any updated information on the briefing today.
We don't. Again, speculation is seeming to sort of go up, tick up a bit.
It's just
I'm so sorry, one more.
Yeah.
Is there any additional operations now straight floods, like we implemented the request of being our over the
I
additional?
don't think that we will, even though they were very specific, as you know, to the fire, but it says, fire and impacts of fire. It is a very good question that I hadn't thought of, which is, if you need to do any amendments to deal with flooding, particularly since some of the fire scars are related to the current activity from, say, the wildfire and other fires in this area over the past decade. So I'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I do know that we're concerned about the amount of rain and moisture and flooding and bridges. And I don't have an assessment yet from the team that is in the Ruidoso area dealing with the flooding now. And I'm going to do something a little bit unfair. I'm going to ask my communications director that if we have anything specific related to that, we try to update the meeting, the late, and I will take a look so I can get a better answer for your question. But I don't think I'm out to that.
Maybe just one more. Do you have an estimate of how many people will be in Ruidoso also Ruidoso?
I don't. The only reason I know there are some is because people are saying so. These are folks who aren't in that, that management incident communications team, so it's hard to really know. The Congresswoman and I were sort of thinking there ought to be kind of a standard where we know that X% aren't going to heed those warnings. This kind of gives us a sense about what's going on. But more than I would like, because I worry about their safety. And I think it does cause added stress to the firefighting and first responding teams about who might still be in those areas. I do know there are some people who stay behind, I just don't have a number. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, I'll just add, we have heard from the mayor and a number of local residents that there are still missing family members. And one of the challenges right now is because of spotty cells and cell service, and those who may still be in the area who have not heard from their family members or vice versa. We do know that there are going to be search teams for folks, but I think it's important to just reiterate for a third time, if folks have not left an evacuation area yet, they need to leave.
Please.
I know rebuilding is already on some people's minds, wondering what they're going to go back to, and with some challenges of claims for the Hermit's Peak Canyon fire. Has there been any discussion of how this would be different, or any words of comfort you can give them on filing those claims and getting that process?
Well, in terms of words of comfort, this is a state that even to fire, and what the liabilities are on, and given that this is what so I would say the comfort part once again is that the federal delegation is already asking for directed money already, without knowing exactly what that would look like or how many people are affected. That's great work. I know this sounds a little political, and I don't mean it to at all. It's not political. Not every delegation agrees on whether or not that hits the number one priority is recovery for people in natural disasters. I don't understand that. And I want you to know that even when I was in Congress, that was debated heavily, including getting money for any number of hurricanes. So there are members who agree with this part. Has rapidly grown. So we can get those resources on the ground, we will stay, and one thing that's already underway for people is as soon as it's safer, so the healthcare team, the Medicaid team, the general assistance team, the food stamp team, the children and families team, the stand-up shelter for foster families, and everybody else. They will be here. You won't have to call. You won't have to travel. You won't have to get on the internet. they'll do that work for you right here. So I hope that feels like we have to build housing. We have to get those benefits and resources in the hands of people. We have to support local government who's already on this. And we're going to do everything we can to minimize how impactful and how hard this is.
Can I add something on the federal side? I think it's really important for folks to understand that the nature of this fire, as far as I understand it now, is very different than the Cap Canyon and Hermit's Peak fire. In that case, that was a fire that was generated by a prescribed burden by the federal government and led by Congresswoman Fernandez and Senator Khan and Senator Heinrich. They were able to do something that was actually unprecedented, which was to get issue that many of those residents are facing is that it has been slow for those payments to happen. And that is a separate issue from filing FEMA claims, insurance claims. All of these things are different bureaucratic processes, but I think it's important to also level set expectations. This is going to be a very long recovery. There are families who live up in these mountains who are living on properties that may or may not be insured. It may take a while for FEMA to get on the ground and start working with families to address their claims. But in the meantime, what I think is important and what the governor is stating is that the state will be there, our congressional offices will be there. We're working on setting up a joint case management process. And we will, as the mayor said, leverage every possible resource of our communities to help these families get through. And it will require all New Mexicans who are able to come to help, to support these families, because it's going to take a long time, especially for those families who lost everything.
You know, one thing that a lot of people don't think about, but all it's got to be disposed somewhere. And if you look, Ruidoso is a really unique place that when we start looking about disposing of everything here, that river runs right down through everything. And so we have to be extremely careful with that. But you have all the solid waste that, or the fire, the remnants, they're going to have to be disposed of somewhere. And when you look at the landfills in the areas around Ruidoso, that can fill up a lot of landfills really quick with tin, whatever, like it's not recyclable, all that can fill out a lot of stuff. There has to be a lot of studying about what goes on and what we do to protect the watershed that is there because of the Ruidoso River and how valuable it is to this whole area. And so there's a lot that has to be done and thought about and thought through. This is an extremely different thing. Ruidoso, they don't have a big place like Awful does to place, their waste. And so this is going to be something that we all have to
So you mentioned that you're going to work on cellular distances, yes, longer distances. So when can we see some of that kind of go into place? Well, I'm hoping that we can have something concrete to say about that as early as tomorrow. I don't think I can promise the delivery and installation by tomorrow. It was on the top of our list, as the journal said, I think yesterday. They focused on the first responders. It was on my top priority list, so maybe the general community some good news about when we might see a couple of those on their way.
We're working, but I think that there's some assessments that also need to be done. So we don't know why the cellular towers are not working right now. So we've got to get crews in Could be a cut fiber, so it could be as simple as a fiber repair and cellular comes back, which would be great. Could be a power.
I understand that there was, again, actual line that did get burned, and so that's part of why they're having challenges in Ruidoso. So they have to cut power for part of the communities in order to fight the fire itself, and there's spotty service. But I do want to mention that for the evacuees that are going to shelters, whether it's here or in Papupan, we do have the providers who are actually providing mobile hotspots as well as these cows. And in fact, the governor and I just visited
everything else, let's he's supposed to cover it, it's right here, right, yeah, right after Traverse County. And I know because my ranch is the first house on the west coast grid out there. So that creates some unique problems to the area just because of the construction of the grids that we have across the country.
Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Roswell. Thank you.